The murder of Ken McElroy, a town's silent justice. Ken McElroy was a name that sent chills down the spines of Skidmore, Missouri's 437 residents. Known as the town bully, McElroy terrorized the community for decades with thefts, assaults, and even attempted murder. Despite facing over 20 criminal charges, McElroy always seemed untouchable, escaping justice time and again. On July 10, 1981, his reign of terror ended in a hail of gunfire. McElroy was shot dead while sitting in his truck in the middle of town, surrounded by nearly 50 witnesses. Yet to this day, no one has ever been charged. Was this collective justice, fear-driven silence, or something darker? This is the chilling story of Ken McElroy and the mystery that still haunts Skidmore. Ken McElroy was born in 1934, the 15th of 16 children in a poor farming family. Dropping out of school in the 8th grade, McElroy quickly gained a reputation as a troublemaker. By adulthood, his criminal behavior escalated to theft, arson, and violence. McElroy was bold, brazen, and seemingly immune to consequences. He had a knack for finding legal loopholes and intimidating witnesses to avoid convictions. Locals whispered about his ties to corrupt lawyers and his menacing ability to manipulate the system. McElroy's reign over Skidmore wasn't just about crime, it was about control. He was known to stalk those who crossed him, sitting outside their homes for hours in his pickup truck, rifle in hand. He terrorized the town, but law enforcement always seemed one step behind. In 1980, McElroy's actions took a darker turn. He became embroiled in a feud with a local grocery store owner, Ernest Bowenkamp, and his family. The dispute started over a bag of candy McElroy's daughter allegedly stole. McElroy responded with characteristic rage. He began harassing the Bowenkamps, making threatening visits to their store and firing shots near their home. The situation escalated when McElroy shot Bo Bowenkamp in the neck during a confrontation. Amazingly, Bowenkamp survived, and McElroy was arrested and charged with attempted murder. But even then, McElroy's influence was clear. He was released on bond and immediately returned to terrorizing the Bowenkamp family, often sitting outside their home with his gun in plain sight. For years, the townspeople felt powerless, but after McElroy returned to harassing the Bowenkamp family, a sense of unity began to form. Whispers of "enough is enough" echoed through Skidmore. On the morning of July 10, 1981, McElroy arrived in Skidmore with his wife, Trenna. Despite the pending charges against him, McElroy seemed unfazed. He entered the local tavern, ordering drinks and glaring at townsfolk who dared to look his way. But this time, the town had had enough. A group of nearly 50 residents gathered to confront McElroy. The tension was palpable as the crowd followed him out to his pickup truck. McElroy climbed into the driver's seat, lit a cigarette, and reached for his rifle. What happened next is a matter of speculation. Shots rang out, shattering the silence of the small town. McElroy was struck multiple times, slumping over in his truck as Trenna screamed beside him. Some residents admitted they felt safer after McElroy's death, while others confessed to sleepless nights, haunted by the events of that day. Despite the brazen nature of the shooting, what happened after was perhaps even more shocking. When law enforcement arrived, they found a town unwilling to talk. Nearly 50 people had witnessed the shooting, but no one admitted to pulling the trigger. Investigators asked questions, but the response was unanimous. "I didn't see anything." The townspeople stood united in their silence, leaving the authorities with no leads. Over the years, theories have swirled about the identity of the shooter or shooters. Some believe a lone vigilante acted in self-defense. Others suggest the entire event was premeditated, a coordinated effort by the town to end McElroy's reign once and for all. The investigation into McElroy's death stalled almost immediately. Despite the large number of witnesses, law enforcement lacked the evidence needed to identify a suspect or bring charges. Over time, the case remained cold. Even the FBI briefly investigated the murder, but came up empty-handed. Many speculated that the townspeople had made a pact of silence, a united front to protect the shooter or shooters from prosecution. McElroy's wife, Trina, later filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the town and the county, alleging that law enforcement had failed to protect her husband and accusing the townspeople of conspiring in his death. However, the lawsuit was dismissed for lack of evidence, leaving her with no legal recourse. To this day, the legal aftermath of McElroy's murder remains as mysterious as the crime itself. One theory is that McElroy's murder was the result of collective justice. The townspeople, fed up with years of terror, decided to take matters into their own hands. The silence, they argue, was a protective shield, an unspoken agreement to protect the shooter from prosecution. Another theory points to the possibility of multiple shooters. Ballistics suggested that McElroy was struck by bullets from different guns, adding weight to the idea of a group effort. But skeptics question whether the shooting was entirely spontaneous. Some suggest the possibility of a larger conspiracy involving not just townsfolk, but law enforcement officials who turned a blind eye. The case raises an uncomfortable question. When the law fails, is it ever justified to take justice into your own hands? Skidmore's story is not the only one of its kind, but it remains one of the most infamous. Today, the story of Ken McElroy remains a haunting chapter in Skidmore's history. His death was a turning point for the town, but it left a lingering sense of unease. Some residents moved away, unable to escape the shadow of that fateful day. Others stayed silent, carrying the weight of what they witnessed. McElroy's murder has inspired books, documentaries, and even a television series. To some, it's a story of justice served. To others, it's a grim reminder of what happens when fear and frustration boil over into violence. The murder of Ken McElroy is a story that blurs the lines between justice and vengeance. Was his death an act of collective bravery, or was it a step too far? The truth remains locked in the silence of Skidmore's residents. What do you think happened that day? Was McElroy's murder justified? Or does the mystery point to something more sinister? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more mysteries, legends, and unsolved stories right here on Legends Unveiled.